Come, let us explore why deep meditators become more vulnerable, not less. The second enlightenment factor is investigation. And being a Gen Xer, I cannot hear the word investigation without thinking about Inspector Columbo. Excuse me, ma'am, just one more thing. So, let's look at that. Investigation is a function of curiosity, and it is antithetical to defensiveness. We're going to explore that a little bit deeper. You see, if we're going to practice mindfulness, let me jump back. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we have evolved to automatically access the middle bit of our spinal cord, which functions as a sympathetic aspect of our autonomic nervous system. It has evolved to help us to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice. Notice what? All mind's antics of perception. All our sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including the full spectrum of human emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. All of them, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the convenient to the arduous, from the glorious to the grotesque. This is antithetical to picking and choosing. This is antithetical to shoving at some and reaching for others. This can only be accomplished by being vulnerable. And being vulnerable is what we have already evolved to do. We don't have to force it. We don't have to work ourselves up. We don't have to contrive it. All we have to do is cooperate with our autonomic nervous system, and vulnerability takes care of itself. Now, you can ask, well, why do that? That seems like a remarkable pain in the ass, but not in the fun, tingly way. And the answer would be this. When the competition and cruelty of our survival-oriented amygdala and dopamine-oriented reward system become our guiding star, life can be, in the words of Thomas Hobbes, nasty, brutish, and short. However, authentically training in mindfulness and meditation once every 12 hours or so can gently stimulate our anterior cingulate gyrus, which functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy, as well as gain us access or give us access to our oxytocin-oriented reward system in a manner that has evolved to reward for cooperation. This kindness and cooperation is the key to a distinctly fulfilling life. The price of this life is the paltry inconvenience of vulnerability. This is the Dzogchen Sunday Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For multiple decades, I spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that you would not have to. It is Ahsoka Tano Thursday morning, early Thursday morning. Come, let us meditate like a Jedi. We're going to begin the first third of this morning's meditation with white lettering and visual verbiage and the top of our head, which is accessed by the Pasadi Mudra or meditation gesture, which is as simple as using the tip of our left index finger to support the lower knuckle of our right index finger. Palms up in our lap. This gesture is useful when we find ourselves on the precipice of a meltdown. This gesture is useful at night when we go to bed to facilitate us falling asleep. This gesture is useful when death inevitably comes for us, like that scary rabbit in Watership Down, that we might depart peacefully. And assuming this gesture helps us to keep track of our first of 13 solitary recitations of watch rest. That bears further exploration. What is the essence of mindfulness? To silently and mentally recite the verb watch each time we passively notice air enter our nostrils. What then is the essence of meditation? To silently and mentally recite the verb rest each time we feel we passively notice air exiting our nostrils. Do we do this 24/7? No. It's enough to do it once every 12 hours or so for as long as it feels comfortable. You don't want to gut it out. You don't want to force yourself to practice. Otherwise, you will cultivate an aversion. So together, let us practice our first solitary recitation of watch rest. In preparation for our first dozen repetitions of watch rest, we bring our attention to our right hand. Every time we silently and mentally recite the verb watch during our inhalation, we advance our right thumb from the right little finger's lower set of creases to the right index finger's higher set of creases. Together as a team, let us practice right now. To keep track of our next solitary recitation of watch rest, we touch the tip of our left thumb to our left little finger's lower set of creases. To keep track of our next dozen recitations of watch rest, we return to our right hand. To keep track of our next solitary recitation, or repetition, we turn to our left hand and advance our left thumb to the next set of creases. Now that we know how to count the remainder of our solitary recitations as well as our dozen recitations, let's return our hands palms up to our lap. One moment. And do remember, the moment you have a specific question about the philosophies or techniques that support meditation, do not hesitate to type your question in great detail in the chat window, for I tend to check for questions about once every 14 minutes or so. Remember, our job is not to pick and choose what to notice, but to be completely vulnerable to whatever comes up. To watch what comes up as we breathe in and relax as best we can as we breathe out. This does not have to be forced. It is already hardwired into our autonomic nervous system. All we got to do is remind ourselves of the cunning use of the two verbs, watch and rest, to passively cooperate with the subtle wiring of our central nervous system. It is not our job to force ourselves to believe in impermanence or interdependence, for we cannot help but notice it, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly. All we gotta do is sit and breathe and watch and rest, enjoy the show as we breathe in, and relax as we breathe out. Or allow me to rephrase that. All we gotta do is sit and breathe in such a way that it allows our body and brain to watch and rest in harmony with our breathing effortlessly. And yes, we will experience the full spectrum of human perceptions, emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. That keeps it interesting. This distinctly passive approach helps us from stepping into the bear trap of indulging our controlling and rigid tendencies. Checking for questions. Ah, that's what's missing. My right monitor. Woof. Let me get that bad boy going so I can see if there's any questions on the right. Okay, I don't see any questions. So, let's prepare for our second, let's gather our second collection of 13 solitary recitations and 13 dozen recitations. We'll keep track of that by sliding the tip of our left index finger to the second knuckle of our right index finger. Checking for questions. All right, so we're going to shift gears. Going to shift gears from the crown to the chest. Going to shift colors from white to teal. We're going to shift verbiage from watch to feel. We're going to shift gestures from Pasadi Mudra to Sati Mudra, which translates as mindfulness gesture. As we passively notice our chest swell with breath, we could silently and mentally recite the verb feel. As we passively notice our chest subtly sink, as gently we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the verb rest. Sati Mudra is as simple as using the tip of our left middle finger to support the lower knuckle of our right middle finger, palms up in our lap. We use this gesture to count our first solitary repetition of rest, of feel rest. To track our next, our dozen repetitions, we rely upon the fingers of our right hand. Together, let us practice. To track our next solitary recitation, we begin counting on our left hand, and then track our next dozen repetitions on our right hand. We now advance our left thumb. And now that we know how to count to multiple sets of solitary and dozen repetitions, let's return our hands palms up to our lap. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. For Meditate Like a Jedi is made possible thanks to the generosity of viewers just like you. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's dusk practice of Meditate Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.